Hello, everyone. Welcome to Orange and Brew, the podcast where we made our two favorite pastimes, the Denver Broncos and beer. I am JT Matthews. You can find me at JTMatthews01 on Twitter. And I am here with John Cronenberg, super producer and editor at John K NFL. And we're live. We're
live. Yeah. How you doing today? How's everyone doing? If you're in the YouTube chat, let us know how you're doing. If you're watching on Twitter, anywhere else, unfortunately you can't comment, but if you're on Facebook, hit us up as well. So how are you doing today, JT?
I'm doing okay. It's a Thursday. I'm off on Fridays. The perks have had working 410s, but I'm looking forward to the weekend already. So
yeah, rough week though.
Yeah, it's been the last week or so has been extra busy. I am intentionally trying to do some self-work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a kind of exhausting, to be honest. I was saying to Doc the other day over text, I was like, I'm trying to do a lot more reflecting and looking inward, but it's a lot easier to just keep looking forward instead of looking backwards. Yeah. So I'm working on it. Self-care.
I mean, that's hard with like football players. Like, hey, it's much easier to, hey, let's focus on the next week. Let's not look back at the film from last week, kind of thing. And it's something you kind of have to dive into, and you have to look at what you did and kind of do an analysis and see where you end up, kind of going in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for the better at the end of the day. It's a little exhausting right now, but we will get through it. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing real well. I mean, college football season's coming up here real soon. Week 0, which is always fun, just to get rolling. But also, we had a football game already in the NFL. That's huge. And now we're one day away from the Broncos getting on the field again. So I'm very excited. It's kind of that itch has been scratched when it comes to football a little bit, and it's just been fun going to camp. Got sunburned. You can't like complain about being sunburned though while you were watching the Broncos. It's just one of those things you take with a little bit of pride, I guess.
Yeah, of course. You just you own it, and it's like a battle scar. You're like, hey, I went to camp and got the sunburn, and that means I'm cool. So hi. I don't know how to say this. Biwana Beast.
Biwana Beast. That was my old handle, if you kind of remember. The old time. So that was just me kind of saying, it was a comic book character, and I just chose it because it was kind of catchy. So I went with that.
Well, let's get into some Broncos talk.
Let's do it.
I will say we missed the Doc today. Doc had some stuff going on, so he will not be joining us today. But John and I are going to hold it down. We're going to get you some Broncos news. And let's start with a little bit of troubling news, which is Broncos tackle Mike McGlinchey sustained an injury in camp. It appears that it's a knee sprain. He will be out.
Hey, Crush. Just one second,
Crush. He'll be out until Doc. What's up, Doc? He'll be out and probably until week 1 at least.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a big blow to this offensive line. This is someone we're looking forward to seeing in action in the preseason, getting caught up and up to speed, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we're thankful it wasn't more serious.
Yeah, I think that sprained knee you worry about. You just worry about getting healthy for week 1. The thing that you miss out on is obviously having those guys gel as 5 as 1. You want that to happen for these guys to become that unit as a single unit. But until then, we know how good Fleming is at coming in and for fill-in roles whenever it need be. And until that time, that's where the Broncos are going to have to focus. But I think the biggest thing that's going to be missing are those reps of, just getting used to those nonverbal signals, just things that you get used to when I do give you this look, all of a sudden this is going to be a stunt. You just kind of have those nonverbal cues that you develop over camp, and it really just is going to hurt that. And but at the same time, I don't think you can develop those kind of cues without actual live 100% football.
Yeah.
So again, if you're going at 80%, like most linemen kind of have to do, where you kind of a little patty cake, a little pop here and there, I think it's one of those things where it's going to be hard anyway to get gelling. So it does take a few weeks for that line to come together anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, live reps are going to be the most important thing.
Right.
Yeah, bringing back Fleming, like Jolene says, it was huge. It was something that I was a proponent of. I think a lot of us were.
I think we all wanted it from the beginning,
Yeah,
and it happened the timing the way it should have. He was kind of a second, free agent tier, and that's how it happened. He got what he was due, and I think that was great.
totally. And it gives you some depth, which is something that we've been lacking on this offensive line for quite a few years. Someone that you feel good about plugging in that was here last year. And for all of the disaster that last year had, he was kind of a bright spot,
Yeah,
especially in the
wasn't
running
he?
game, and McGlinchey, that's kind of his calling card too, is being able to clear up lanes. And so I think that, you have kind of a prototypical tackle to fill in for McGlinchey in the meantime. And someone that you feel okay about moving into the regular season if it takes a little extra time to get healthy.
Yeah, of course. And I think Doc is bringing up a good point here. Your boy Isaiah Prince looked good stepping up in for Bowles and McGlinchey. Yeah, I mean, he's looked good. Fleming kind of has been working on the side at this point, which, there's no rush with Fleming. He knows what he's doing. He's a veteran. We talked about this a little before. Why rush it back? So give Prince some of those looks. Let him see that. I find that to be just smart football play and smart coaching, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think it is smart. Yeah, and again, a guy you can just plug in, and he knows the details of the job. It is interesting though. I think that with a new offensive system, it'll be interesting to see how quick this line gels, especially with some of the injuries and the sustained time that's been missed. But I've heard positive things. I personally haven't been able to get it up to camp, and so I'm gonna kick it to you, John, to kind of give us your observations. But I think that this line, I'm optimistic that we will see some growth that we didn't see last year. I think the coaching is already better, and I'll be interested to see them get out on the field and prove it.
Yeah, I just want to get to Jolene's question real
Yeah.
quickly. Do we think Prince makes the 53-man roster? And at this point, with the way I'm seeing things, it seems like he's kind of the guy behind Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need someone that can kind of step in, and Fleming can be that swing guy. So Isaiah Prince steps in at right tackle if there's an injury, and then Fleming can move over to left tackle and be that swing guy. So again, I think at this time right now, I'd have him making the roster. What about you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, he's got some versatility. So I think you hold on to him for that. You play him on either side if we need to. Obviously it's not ideal, but in a pinch,
that's kind of the thought. Yeah.
Yeah. You need the versatility on the line. So I think you hold on.
Unless you really trust Quinn Bailey and to be that guard tackle swing there. Yeah. Otherwise, I see him making this roster though still.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. But, when it comes to camp and Doc agrees, he's going to make this roster. So we're all in agreement, which is great.
Yeah.
But
it's nice that we can agree.
Well, hey, Jolene, do you think he makes the roster? Let us know real quick if you can get in there real quickly. And hey, as well as Crush, let us know. Do you think he's going to make the roster since you're in here as well? Because I care what you guys think and what you've been able to see as well. Besides that, at camp, I have to admit I was a little disappointed with the punt returning I saw yesterday. A lot of muffed punts from Hinton and from Mims. And that was a little surprising for me. I understand that it came out of not from a punter as leg. It came from a jug machine. So it comes out differently. And it was more of a real deep pass. But, for me, it was just a little bit disappointing to see that kind of result as they were kind of focusing on that yesterday. So just, it's a little concerning just because, when it happens live, it's going to be even more pressure. It's going to be the ball coming at you hard as well as the lights and everything around there. It's not going to be just a few fans, honestly.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I'll be interested to see how that role rounds out, because obviously it's something that we've been struggling to find as of recently. What other observations? I've heard. So again, I haven't been able to get out to camp. Just work and stuff's been kicking my butt. But
yeah, no worries.
I heard early on the defense looked better than the offense. Like the defense had a step on the offense, but lately I've heard the offense is coming around and looking a little bit better. What's your kind of thought on that? Has it been a pretty even battle? Do you feel like one side's beating the other more frequently? Do people seem locked in?
Yeah, for me, it's one of those things. The defense did come out hot, I believe, at the beginning, but in every situation, that's always the case. It's much more difficult to be someone, working on your depth and your pass pro and focusing on working on the new terminology. There's so much going on for those offensive linemen, those new players. It just takes time for them to get going. And for me, it's much easier for those linemen and linebackers to just go out there and go firing off and go at all, their full speed, essentially, at least when it comes to running and that sort. So for me, that's kind of where I see it as, where it's not a thing to be concerned with. It's very natural. It's what happens in everything, in every single scenario. It's usually like what comes up with pitchers as well. Pitchers always come out first because it's just one of those things that they kind of have an advantage over the batters. They need to get used to the speed and that kind of stuff. Want to say real quick, what's up to Yordi? Good to see you. Hope you had a great trip. Also, Crush weighing in on, again, with Prince. I think it's going to be between Prince and Bailey for that final spot. Either should be hopefully come back on practice squad if they don't make the 53. That's a good point. I mean, I think the practice squad the Broncos really utilized it well last year. I'm very excited to see how they utilize it this year too.
Yeah, totally. I heard the receivers are looking okay. I heard Sutton had a good day yesterday.
Sutton looked real good yesterday. Honestly, on contested passes, he was getting in there, taking a little bit of shots too from Mathis as it came for a pass once in a while. So it was great to see him hang on to some balls that were deeper, that had some contact, were contested. I was very happy to see what Sutton has been doing, especially again after seeing the Tim Patrick loss and how that kind of, to see them kind of bounce back and not be so concerned about it. It's nice to see from the wide receiver core in general.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're going to need an injection of high level play. And I'm the one that's kind of fluctuated back and forth on Sutton. And I obviously want the best for him. I want 2019.
That's the one I want.
Sutton.
Am I seeing that 2019 form? That was a real special form that I was seeing. I mean, it was something special, but it was young, and I saw a development coming kind of thing. I think what we're going to see is a more developed Courtland Sutton, to be honest. I think we're going to see those shorter intermediate routes, him being able to complete and feel more comfortable on his routes there as well. So very excited for that. And I think we can expect Courtland Sutton back to 2019 form with a little bit of, different stuff to be added in there that went away.
Yeah. No, that's exciting. And like I said, we need a shot of playmaking. We need kind of shot in the arm as far as versatility with this receiver group, some ability to stretch the field a little bit.
Stop it.
I like it. I think that I'm optimistic for Courtland. Obviously we've seen him do it. It's just a matter of, there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously a quarterback matters, like Jolene mentioned.
It's really true.
Even last year, I felt like he underachieved a little bit, but I'm willing to concede that, quarterback situation has been shaky at best. So I'm interested. I'm excited to see under the new offense with the new regime, how that looks. If he feels more empowered to go out and catch.
Just a shot at you. That's just a shot at you. That's just a shot at you.
Completely derailed me. No, it's okay. No, just I want to see him do it at a high level again. I think he'll have opportunity. As much as I hate to see Tim Patrick going down, this is an opportunity for Sutton to go out and cement himself as the number 2 guy, potentially even number 1. If
be that number 1 guy, be that Pro Bowler guy that everyone expected him to be that special Y guy who can make catches on players, make Ward look silly in Cleveland, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm looking forward to, and we hope to get that back. And we got a question here from Carolyn. Is Peyton playing all the starters tomorrow? And this one I'm not 100% sure on. Again, this is something we can talk about with a concern about Arizona and their field. But I'm not sure if I want all of our starters to be playing. There's concerns with the field. We just saw Marlon Mack went down with an Achilles tear, I believe. Wasn't that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So there's some concerns with the field. So I'm not really sure I want all the starters to be out there, honestly. Like if Randy Gregory gets out there, I'm just a little bit nervous. Like I want him to have solid footing. I saw him working his calf the other day. Again, felt like they were working it just naturally to keep it healthy, but it's one of those things where, I worry about that. So I'm not sure on the exact plan. Maybe maybe Cam could fill us in, someone else, one of our viewers, but I don't see all the starters playing officially tomorrow. I think it's going to be based on who needs it, essentially, who needs that work.
Yeah, I haven't heard officially either. I would assume that there will be some reps for some of the guys. But, again, and we'll get into it more after beer time about the preseason game. But, like with the field and the shape that it is and all the things we've heard about that Arizona field, I also wouldn't be surprised if they just decided to hold back. If they said, all right, week one, let's get guys in there that need the reps, that we need to kind of suss through the depth chart with. And week two, we'll get our starters out there and give them some significant playing time under better conditions. The last thing you want is any injury during the preseason or training camp, which I think we've already had a good deal around the league. There's been some pretty major injuries that have shaken things up a little bit. So it's hard to say. I think we'll just have to, unless we get a presser or something where he says definitely. Yeah. And I think we just got to tune in and see. But I think regardless, the reps are going to be meaningful for someone, and that's the excitement of
right. Preseason. I mean, no matter what, again, I expect there to be the corners out there because, I don't see Riley Moss isn't going to be playing. I don't think at all, obviously, with him being injured, those kind of things where, they're going to have to be a lot of depth guys otherwise. That's how I see it.
Yeah, let's talk about
and she agrees. We don't need no starters out there, and I 100% agree. We don't need them out there. It's dangerous. I think it's really one of those things. And even Cam right here again saying, just please don't play Javonte. And that's one where again that knee, everything. We just want him to get to the season. I don't need to see him, going through the holes or anything like that. Like I trust them. If the medical team. If they say he's good to go, he's good to go. Let him get the mental reps. Get P. Ryan out there. Let's see some of those third guys. Let's see if Batty's going to be the third guy. Those kind of things I'm up for seeing. But I think everybody is in agreement there that we don't need to see anything like that. It'd be scary.
The only thing I would counter that is we had a coaching regime last season that didn't play any starters and, especially key starters in the preseason. And I do feel like it mattered.
It did. It did.
I felt like the level of competition was down last year. I feel like when we got to the regular season, there was not a ton of comfortability with that system. I'm not saying that the preseason is the only time where you get live reps to get that going. Like, I think that you can do that in practice and with good coaching. But, I think the counter would be we avoided playing starters in preseason. So maybe we need to get them extra reps so we feel better. But I think that's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Just a preference from coaching. Standpoint, right? Like, how we feel about it doesn't dictate what's going to happen. But I could see, the opposite argument being like, let's get those guys reps.
Yeah. And Julian saying there's 2 more preseason games. Wait till you're on a good surface. Game 3 will be at home. I'm seeing it as, hey, at the week 2 of the preseason, at least, that's when you go ahead and do those kind of moves. Week 3 of the preseason, you kind of wrap it up. And it's good to have those 2 preseason games be actually away, honestly, because that just means we have 1 more game at home. So I like that, honestly. Just want to say real quickly, hey to D-Rock. Hey, fellas in chat. But I might have missed this. But can you all discuss how horrendous Arizona field is. We have discussed that. It's kind of been the hot topic here, and it's been a concern. I'll just say that everyone is concerned about it. Everyone is concerned for the starters if they're playing. So yes, it is something. Why don't you explain a little bit about it, JT, about how like the field has moved in and out and how that can play a factor essentially.
Yeah. So this is just my understanding of it, just listening to a few different things. So the field is they like John said, it moves in and out. It's not kind of the stationary turf. And it can get really uneven, and it can create some bad footing for the players. Like John said earlier, Mac tore his Achilles. Speculation is that because of the field and turf situation, that was a contributing factor. It was a pretty basic receiving play that he went out to catch a ball. Yeah. And it was unfortunate that happened, but and I think even going back to the Super Bowl, there's been complaints about how that field feels to the players, the level of safety, the concern around that. And I think that if I were a player, I would question it. I would be asking questions. Obviously they go out and that's not really what they get paid for. They get paid to put their product on the field. But if I were a veteran, I would go to the coaching staff. I would go to whoever. If I didn't feel good about playing on it, I would say that. I would make sure that that's known. Yeah. Not that guys are getting hurt.
It's still your job. You're told you have to go out there.
Job,
but
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those difficult things. But I think it's something in the preseason where there can be a discussion, especially with some guys that hold value to the team. And you want to have that culture be built where these coaches and everyone feels together. So if that was brought up, I think the coaches would hear it out definitely.
And I'm hoping the conversation around it now will make them make some adjustments before the regular season gets started. I don't think it'll matter for the Broncos preseason game. I don't think that it doesn't sound like they're going to boycott it, as some people have suggested, which is fine, but I do think that they need to make some changes. So what that is, I'm not an expert. I can't say, but hopefully they'll at least consider that.
And going through the chat here real quickly, it seems like a lot of people are talking about it. So let's address it.
Wait, let's do beer time first.
Okay. We'll do it afterwards.
We're going to get everything, but I want to make sure we get our beer time in.
Let's do it.
We're going to get to, we'll just say we're going to talk about Shelby Harris on the other side. We're going to talk a little bit more about preseason, and we're going to talk about the unofficial depth chart. So if you're interested in any of those, stay tuned. We're just going to have a little beer time right now. It's beer time, and I think it's going to be a simple one today. Doc's not here. I had an old standby in my refrigerator, so I decided to grab it today. Something I've had before. It's not.
Let's hear about it, because we're waiting to have some that we all three have, and that's what I have. So we'll wait till then to get them all done at once, and that'll be exciting to do. But until then, let me hear what you have.
Until then, I have 90 Shilling. It's a staple kind of beer. If you're a beer drinker, you probably have had this one. It's Odell Brewing Company. One of my favorites. Okay. Love Odell. Not typically my go-to 90 Shilling. I used to like kind of your more malty, darker beers back in the day. I've kind of moved away from those. But 90 Shilling's still solid. It's still a solid one. It's one I'll go to if I'm in a mood. And I'll just read it. It's a fun little blurb. It says, named for the Scottish tax on high-quality beer, 90 Shilling is a medium-bodied amber ale with a distinct burnished copper color and a deeply pleasant aroma. We think you'll find our flagship ale brilliantly refreshing and worth every shilling. Again, it's one of their flagships, like it says. One of those. Odell, thank you, Cam. It's great. I love Odell. I would, it's probably my favorite brewery in town, to be honest. Between that and Great Divide. So I'm not going to make a big to-do about it. I'm not going to give it a crazy rating or anything, but support your Colorado beers, because 90
It feels
shillings.
like Colorado is kind of like that hub though now at this point for some of these other places. Let us know. Like,
People are catching up, though. People are catching up. We got to maintain our beer rep. I know.
well, what other states are you hearing? You drinking beer from then?
Yeah. Pacific Northwest is always big. Your Portland, your Seattle. Those are always big competitors. Yeah. I've heard Asheville is a great beer city. I don't know that I've had any specific Asheville breweries, but I know that, I've heard about some people traveling there recently. I know the culture is big around beer. So those would be the ones I think are sneaking up. But I think, it's a pretty big culture just about everywhere now. So if you want to stay on the top, you got to work hard. You got to have these you got to support these staple companies that are great, make great beer. So I would suggest you go out and do that. I'm going to pop this baby open.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, why don't we get back to some Broncos talk?
Yeah, let's get to Crush real quickly here.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all see the new Breckenridge Distillery back-to-back bourbon bottles. I have not seen these.
Either.
Wow, Ed McCaffrey versus Alfred Williams edition. That sounds awesome to me. Because, so yesterday, just, since it's still a little bit of beer time, we can do stories.
Sure.
Ed McCaffrey was at practice yesterday.
Nice.
And boy, I really did want to get his autograph. But when I showed up, I get there at, it's about the time of camp to get going.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that line, and boy, was it long. It felt like everyone decided to just stand there for Ed McCaffrey instead of watching practice at first. So by the time it got going to where I felt like I could go get there, he was gone. So I missed Ed McCaffrey. Boy, did that sting. He was my favorite receiver as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, he was. And I just have distinct memories of my mother at Dove Valley screaming, Eddie.
Yeah.
Her voice distinctly goes into my head. And I remember just Ed McCaffrey just looking one time, looking up and going like that. And it was just really, it's just one of those cool moments. That's what made camp special for me. And it's sometimes hard to see now with 1,000 kind of fans kind of there. But I remember when it was just 50 of us or so there, 100 or so. It felt smaller at least. So that was always fun. And I assume those are cool bottles, I assume.
Yeah. McCaffrey, I'll tell you a very quick McCaffrey story. It's not cool. It's not a good one. We didn't go to a lot of games growing up. Mm-hmm. We watched at home. We didn't necessarily have a bunch of money to go out, but one of the first games I went to was the game that Ed McCaffrey broke his leg in 2001, and I remember very distinctly. And being so disappointed and so upset.
I mean, I
think it was a season opener, maybe.
I have to be honest. Wasn't that right before September 11th, like the day before? No.
Yeah, it was, or maybe
that's kind of why it really was memorable to me, because it was against New York Giants, and that was a. Ooh, that's not that one is not a good memory. It's not a great one to have for Ed McCaffrey, because he's done so many cool things. Him and his wife and his kids. Sure. Honestly, his wife and him. His wife was a swimmer, so I think I've told this story before. But they used to support a bunch of local swim teams. So seeing them support those local swim teams, they would sign autographs on swim caps of your team, and everyone would bid on it. Loved it. It was just awesome.
That is awesome. That's really cool. Well, let's jump back into some Broncos time.
Yeah, let's do that. But yeah, they won't sell those in Texas. Just finishing up our kind of like a little bit behind. We got the Breck Vodka has a commemoration edition for the new snowcap helmet. Did not know that. Everyone is, taking advantage of it, and hey, why not? It's good stuff to show off, and it looks pretty sweet. It sounds like. So I know we're a little bit behind on the chat. Don't worry. But let's get back into normal things.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right. Before we get into the preseason, let's talk about Shelby Harris.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about his new contract.
Yordi, you know it, man. He has the face that I think I had
with the Cleveland Browns, 5.25 million. And I think there's a lot to talk to around this. There's a history,
Yes,
a positive and negative history around Shelby Harris with the Denver Broncos. More negative with Shelby and ownership than anything else in the front office staff.
Yeah,
I guess the question is, do we feel like the money was appropriate? And do we feel like the Broncos were even in the ballpark? And then or was this kind of more of a personal choice? Like, maybe they were about the same, and he felt like he had more opportunity with Cleveland. What's your overall take on that?
yeah. I think what you're saying and what Cam is getting at here is, I think that he was offered more probably in Cleveland. I think that's a big factor for Shelby. Again, he's kind of on his last kind of contract. He's going kind of year to year from here on out, it looks like. And of course, money's going to matter. He cares about his family. And honestly, there's a lot to be desired also in Cleveland. They have a good team. I hate to say that. I hate everything Ohio from your Ohio State team, where Cameron was getting you a little bit earlier with Go Blue, and then down to the Cleveland Browns, honestly. And it really is. It was a hard thing for me to swallow, and I just think it's a better situation for how he plays football, being that 3 tech. I think it's going to be a better situation for him. And let's see what Crush has to say here. What is your opinion as to ask why Shelby wasn't signed here? Again, I think it came down to money, like we were saying. Did the Broncos try to get him to take a hometown discount, knowing his family lives here in Denver? I'm sure that's a George Payton move. That sounds like him, doesn't it to you?
It's hard to say. I think
it sounds like him to me.
I mean, I would guess that they maybe lowballed him a little bit. I don't know that they asked him to take a discount per se, but I'm guessing they just didn't elevate maybe to that next tier. I don't know. I tend to think that maybe it was a little more personal, and I know the money.
So you take that third thing where it's Shelby came in with that sour grapes kind of attitude, where it's
I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying for sure. But I think
he was hurt by that trade. He had to be hurt by that trade when he wanted to be in Denver. He loved his family being here. Denver loved him. The batted balls, everything felt like he just loved being a part of the Broncos, loved being, part of this community, really. And I think for him, it really hurt that he was traded, and he felt kind of like, well, you guys kept Draymond essentially in exchange for me, and he didn't even want to be there. Obviously, we kind of know that looking backwards, but it is one of those things where, that hurts. You were traded away, and another guy didn't want to be there, and he didn't stay there. So I agree, and maybe again, Cameron's getting to the point, and maybe they like their D-line depth. Maybe they do. I think they could work on their depth, but maybe, again, it's one of those things where they don't see him being as valuable of an asset as others see him. I see him being very valuable, but again, maybe it's not something Vance Joseph values anymore.
Yeah, I just think that, like you said, there's enough of a history here. He's seen the positive years for the Broncos. He's seen what it's turned into. I think you'd really have to sell him on that the Broncos are on an upswing. I think he wants to go somewhere.
He wants to win, and I think Cleveland is in a very good spot. The AFC North, I think it's, I don't see the Steelers being it with Pickett quite yet, unless Pickett really, turns it around, that kind of thing. I think it's kind of open. The Ravens, will have to see how they look with some of their new additions and, how they're connecting. So I think the Browns could sneak in as one of those wild card teams and really make some damage. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to say. And I think the biggest thing, though, like D-Rock is saying kind of here, like that, no Shelby, and kind of like having those, like for the fans, though, I think in Denver, everyone wanted him back here. I think, if he could choose to come back for just the fans and not the people higher up, I think it would be an easy choice.
I would hope so. I have seen him engage with fans before on Twitter and social media or X, whatever it's called now. And I think it can be he could be a little hostile. He could kind of feed into the trolls a little bit. I'm hoping that he understands that generally that's not the.
But he does it. I think he does it as fun. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, I think he does it in fun. Honestly,
but like not all guys can do that. I mean, Kevin Durant famously had a burner account to go.
You're right. Actually, that's a good point.
On Twitter posts.
I honestly, the guys that do it like the way I saw him do it, I saw him doing it in jest and having a good time. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we may never know officially, or we might hear about it at some point. But I think I'm glad that at least an attempt was made. Obviously, it's something I think one of the biggest concerns about with depth on this roster right now is that position, that defensive interior defensive line.
Yeah, it is for me. Don't get me wrong. I like the guys that we have. It's just do
you like the guys that we have? Like I
like them as pieces, but to me they're a lot of depth pieces and they're not quite starters. I like Jonathan Harris. I like what he's been able to do, but I wish there were some other guys going on out there and just some other names, and that's just me personally. I like to have a lot of interior defensive linemen as well, keep them fresh, that kind of thing. So we'll have to see. But going back to Cameron here, I'd round it up to three things. They didn't offer more money. Makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
They like their defensive line here. Okay, that's very possible. Could be a possibility. And three, they have someone else in mind. And hey, that is a big possibility. Actually, I like that. And Crush here again saying hindsight being 2020, perhaps Draymond should have been in that trade last year. We hold on to Shelby and perhaps some picks. And I think that's the key. It would have been that way where if that worked out, we would have held on to some picks, had some more assets. It would have been very nice. But looking back, it's really hard because I think that's would have been my choice. And those picks, love picks. But okay, real quick, want to get to Yordi because he's been waiting patiently. I can't wait to see Drew Sanders in preseason. Man, if Doc was here right now, boy, would he be talking Drew Sanders hype because he loves Drew Sanders, and I have to admit, he pops off. When it comes to looking at him at camp, boy, does he just stand out compared to some of the other guys. I don't know why. I mean, you think Josie Jewell, like these guys are big. He just stands a little bit taller, seems a little bit bigger, has a little bit more pop. I don't know what it is, but man, it's exciting, and you should be excited to see him, Yordi. It's going to be a very, very good experience, I think, and he should get his chance to shine, and I hope to see it. I hope to see him brought in some blitz packages to kind of show that, hey, maybe that's how we get pressure up the A gap instead of maybe some natural defensive line kind of pressure with Shelby Harris. Maybe you go back to that kind of Alexander Johnson kind of mold where you bring in those guys and they go ahead and solidify that A gap and let Josie Jewell or whoever you have, Alex Singleton, kind of take care of the rest there. So I think you should be excited, Yordi, and I can't wait to see him as well.
Yeah. Let's jump into a little bit of preseason talk and a little bit of the Broncos' unofficial depth chart, because I think we've talked a little bit about the preseason game and kind of our expectations. I think the overwhelming response is let's hold off on playing the starters, or at least some key starters, guys that are returning from injuries like Javonte. I am interested to see what the game plan is going into the preseason clash. I wanted it to be more. I wanted to get eyes on starters, and we may. Who knows?
I mean, eventual starters. That's how I can look at it. We've down the line.
Yeah. I guess if we talk about the depth chart and kind of people moving up and down that, who really could benefit from getting some reps in this upcoming preseason game? Who's someone that you're going to be keeping an eye on? Let's assume that, at least the vast majority of starters probably aren't going to get much run. Who are you kind of keeping eyes on to see how they progress or battle for a roster spot?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty obvious with me. I think, again, it's going to be those three centers, seeing where they're going to be at with Alex Forsythe, Luke Wattenberg, and Kyle Fuller. it will be interesting to see again where they have those guys playing, who's going to be at guard first, who's going to be center first, and is Forsythe even thought of as a guard at all?
Right.
So that's where I'm going to be looking at to see how that kind of is the plan, what they're going to do there. But I'm really, really interested to see what Luke Wattenberg can bring. Honestly, I've been really hard on him for a long time since he's essentially been drafted here. I'm going to let him play and let his play speak for himself. I'm not going to be hard on him. I'm just going to watch him play and be open. So for me, that's what I'm excited to see and be a little bit more open to. I have to be more open to some of these players. That's something that I've gotten into in the past where I just immediately kind of dog a player and I keep them in that doghouse. And so that's something for me at least.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting that second wave of offensive line, I think is.
Yeah. Who do you have though?
Outside of that, you mean?
Yeah. Do you have the centers as well? Is that number one for you? And if not, what is that for you?
I don't know that I have a strong number one. I would say I'm interested to see how the receivers shake out after Mims, basically.
Yeah, of course.
And there's
Brandon
some guys,
Johnson. We'll see. He's not out there, so that gives other guys opportunities. And hey, that's the big thing again compared to last year. Competition, it was at least being allowed in camp, so I'm not as worried about if they don't get reps in preseason. At least they're allowing more competition in camp, so I'm not as worried.
Right, exactly. I feel similarly. I don't think that these are going to make or break guys necessarily, especially the first game of preseason. But I'm interested to see where Kendall Hinton gets in there. What they're having him do. It sounds like he's been returning some punts, or at least out there with those guys. Guys like Jalen Virgil that I think have some good upsides. Guys like Montrell Washington who have a lot to prove that people were excited about though when he came in. Where does Marquez Callaway fit in all of this? Weirdly, on this depth chart, they have him at like wide receiver 6. So I was interested to see that. I don't know. Like, I'm not putting a ton
again. It's an unofficial one. I don't know if it's an unofficial one posted on the website. Yeah,
but it's on the Broncos website. So people are looking at it at the very least. So I'll be interested to see how that shakes out. I would assume that Callaway is probably going to be your 3 or 4, your wide receiver 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But they've got some guys ahead of him on the depth chart, including Brandon Johnson and Kendall Hinton. So what are their feelings and thoughts about these guys? Why did they put them on here like this? I'll be interested to kind of see when they get put out there, how that kind of reflects how it matches up with this.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think we talked about it a little bit pre-show. The tight end room.
Yeah, everyone was hitting that up earlier. We'll get back to that because Jolene was going at it earlier. Could Albert O return to 2019 form too? Yeah, no. I mean, no.
I would love it. I would.
I mean, what is 2019 form? Really though, what is that? Just someone we were excited about with potential, and
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, so I'm sorry, he just never turned out to what we had in our vision. You're already here, Albert O. Looks like he's on his way out. It really does look that way. In camp, I've been looking for him to make some kind of amazing play. They're throwing him a ball in the end zone. Just it's not connecting, and it's very difficult to kind of see that. And I think again, Cameron was saying I would like to add something. He had Lance on last night, Lance Sanderson on.
Oh yeah.
So don't be surprised if Albert O plays a lot. I mean, he has to play. The Broncos probably want to try to trade him, or at least see can he add something to the receiver court, the tight end. Where can he add value in any way? It's about, like he said, it's about advertising him for another team essentially. Because I don't see him being a practice squad player. I don't see that happening. And again, he has no trade value. I think a lot of people are saying that.
And you've got some guys that were brought in, Troutman, Manhurts. These are guys that have reps. Mm-hmm. They're not the receivers, at least the gifted receivers that Albert Okwuegbunam has been or has shown that he can be.
But it's one of those names, man. A lot of us worked so hard. I mean, to get that name, And
Yeah.
now, in terms of pronouncing it, I'm saying. So it's like we're losing all that work, and Uzurike, we're losing that
Hey,
work.
you never know.
We're
Like,
losing our hard work of these enunciations. Gosh.
if he lands somewhere else, though, maybe we'll still be saying his name. You never know.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up a few more. Some of them were mentioned in the chat as well. I think the running back, kind of how that all parcels out is really interesting. They've got Tyler Batty, number 3, Tony Jones 4, Jaleel McLaughlin 5. But obviously there's gonna be some guys that aren't going to make this team, especially from that position. So I'll be interested to see kind of who takes over that running back 3 spot specifically.
Yes, that's going to be fun.
I like McLaughlin, but again, like I said, I haven't really been able to be out in camp to keep eyes on him. But I like his tools. I like what he can bring, that kind of change of pace. But yeah, McLaughlin versus Batty is going to be, or Beatty. I always say Batty. Is it Batty?
It's Batty, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think watching the both of them, they've been pretty impressive in camp, to be honest. And this is going to be hard to choose between the two.
Yeah.
I think this is where you could say, hey, both had some versatility and speed, and maybe you can work them into special teams, and you can say, hey, let's bring 4 guys in, just because they have been so impressive. That would be a hard decision to make right now. And honestly, I want to go real quickly to Yordy's player of choice here.
Sure.
PJ, I'm going to say his name wrong because Cam had me on mainly Broncos, and we called him PJ Mustafire, and I keep thinking of Mustafire from Star Wars. And
Mustafir.
Okay, he's a big man. He's a big man from Penn State. I'm excited about him. Can't say his name anymore. Don't know what it is because I'm thinking Star Wars. Right? Yes, out of Penn State, and but he's someone that I think can really fill in, a good player to have on your roster. I wouldn't want to risk him honestly on to go through the practice squad. He'd be someone I'm really interesting to see what happens there. And
and look, you got a lot of opportunity at that position. There's not a lot of it's not filled out from last year. There's still a lot of question marks as to what that's going to look like, what that position rotation is going to look like. Guys like Henningsen, I've heard, hasn't been a standout in camp. I was hoping he would be, to be honest.
Yeah.
Guys like Lancaster and Mustafir, like I think they all have an opportunity.
We're not going to get it anymore.
Mustafar.
It's all wrong now in my head.
Yeah, I know. Me too. It's okay. It happens.
It's okay.
Anyone else on that defensive end that you're looking at? I know that I want to see JL Skinner at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
he's my guy. Like, he was my guy before he got hurt in the draft process, and then I was ecstatic when he fell. And we were still able to get him. Obviously, not ecstatic about the injury and kind of what that looks like, but I think he'll be fun to kind of keep an eye on. Anyone else kind of on that?
Yordy and I have been talking a little bit, just directly, and to be honest, I've been very worried about Nick Benito, but we're hearing good things, honestly, out of camp, and he does look like he's, got a little bit more meat to him. That's nice to see, and it sounds like everything's progressing how they want it to. So that's good to hear. Of course, that's all being said by a lot of Denver media, and I'd really like to see it happen in game. So he's someone I really am actually looking forward to watch in game and see, hey, is he going to be able to hold the edge?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Benito, we've talked about him quite a few times on this pod, but we got to see more. Like, I feel bad a little bit for him because of his style of play, and that he got some Von Miller comps on a very basic level. Like, not that he was going to be Von Miller, but that there was some similarities in their playing style. I feel bad. I feel like that raised the bar a little bit as far as Broncos fans' expectations are.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him be successful. All these guys want to be successful.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
think
no one we're rooting against.
That. Yeah, we're not rooting against any of these guys. Whoever goes in and earns it deserves it.
Right. That's just leads us to our winning more, and that's all we want. Honestly,
right.
I mean,
we don't have the luxury to be able to pick and choose who we want and don't want to win positions, right? Like, there's obviously guys that are going to stand out. Your Pat Surtain, he's going to be there. Your Justin Simmons, he's going to be there. Russ is going to be there. Jerry Jeudy's going to be there as long as they're healthy. Everyone kind of falls after that. We've got to keep an open mind. We might have preferences as to who we like, but we need the best players for that system, and we've got to be able to trust the coaching staff a little bit on that, which is
what we're getting at, what Crush is getting at here.
Right.
I want to see how well coached, or rather how well the players have bought into this coaching staff, and see no delay of games, the clock countdown, kind of have it be in the background, and not having that last year, which I think Crush knows was something that annoyed me, and I think it annoyed some players,
Sure.
And again, no 10 guys on the field, etc. Those kind of things that were simple problems that were backing up the Broncos that didn't need to happen. And you're having your fans kind of get aggravated in the stadium, in your own stadium. You can't have that. So that is something to watch as well, making sure there's no mixed signals. They have good communication. I agree. And that's to your point as well. You were saying, JT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think we'll see less of those errors, hopefully, with this regime. I think the chances of those being fixed, even if they do occur, like Crush said, hopefully, by week 5, I would say is probably the latest you want to see it. But, I think that repetition of mistake is going to be better. Anyone else on this depth chart? I think we got through a lot of them. I think Aaron Patrick, I'm excited to watch him a little bit.
Yeah, so we had someone bring him up earlier, questioning if he was going to play earlier. Of course he's going to be playing, I think. I mean, they want to get him out there and see what he's doing, how he's doing health-wise, and if he can be that guy, you can rely on special teams-wise. And again, we know last year he got hurt. That really hurt our special teams, and we brought in guys specifically for that. It was like D-Rock was asking, is Aaron Patrick playing Friday? I'd like to see him play, but again, we were talking about those knees, and if he's not comfortable, don't go there yet.
Yeah, don't.
I want to save him for the season. We need those special teams aces. I like to have those kind of guys, and Aaron Patrick also added some edge rush value. So when you can have a little bit of both, bring it on.
Yeah, and I think I don't know the state of it, but I know that he was involved in kind of a lawsuit against those artificial fields. So it wouldn't surprise me if he decided to opt out. Even
thank you.
Yes,
that would make sense legally and just as a player, like in life. Yes,
I would guess he probably won't be out there, but that's not to say that I know for sure. So keep an eye out for it. Last one, I'd say I'm excited to kind of see the competition as far as depth goes with the cornerbacks. Obviously, we know our 1, 2, and 3. Our Pat Surtain, Damari Mathis, K'Wan Williams are going to be your kind of key first guys. I'm excited to kind of see Singbassi get back into the mix potentially. Obviously, Riley Moss will have to wait on. Guys like Faion Hicks, Art Green, Fabian Moreau, Tremont Smith. I think guys that have a lot of skill, a lot of nice. They do a lot of different things well, but I'm interested to kind of see the development of that group specifically, because that's one that I still don't really feel great about, to be honest.
I'm going to be interested to see how these kickers handle the field, honestly, too.
That's true.
Like, hey, that's one position where I'm comfortable saying, let's put the kickers out there. Let's see how they handle different footing. This is where you want to see kickers in some different situations and see what they can do. That's the only thing I can think of when it comes to, hey, that's a good thing for the field. Maybe a little bit of thought of it being good. Yeah.
Well, I think we've hit just about everything today, so we're gonna call it here. Thank you so much, chat. You were great today. We appreciate all the interaction. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do the same thing, be live next week. That's the plan. At the very least, things happen, but our plan is to be live and with you guys. So we always want to engage with you guys. We always want to talk to you guys, and you can always reach out to us at orange_and_brew on Instagram, and I'm still calling it Twitter.
We're not calling it X or whatever the idea is. It's Twitter.
It's Twitter. We tweet. I don't know what you do when you send a tweet on X. I don't know what that
Right.
So I'm just going to call it Twitter for now. But yeah, I mean, engage with us. Send us beer recommendations. Let's talk about football. You know, and we'll have Doc back next week. So we'll have the whole gang together at the very least, and we'll get to try a new beer, which I'm always excited about. But thank you guys. We appreciate you. Be kind to one another. Be safe out there, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.